Nick can lead the pledge.
Nick's going to lead us, right?
Yeah, and if you want to say, or I can say the convocation.
Okay, we will get started with our evening. Welcome, everyone. In absence of the mayor, we'll wing it a bit, so welcome all. We will start with the pledge, and then after that, an invocation. So please arise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, my name is Matt Gaylor. I'm pastor of Inspire Church here in Westfield. Would you join me in prayer?
Thank you for joining us.
Lord, we come to you tonight. We thank you for being a nation under God. We thank you for just the privilege that we have to gather and also pray. Lord, I pray for our community, pray for our city and our city leaders. Lord, I ask that you would continue to bring unity to our community. Lord, I pray that you would give us a sense of progress and that you would help us as we move forward to be moving forward with your wisdom and your direction. Lord, I thank you for bringing the people that you have brought to our leadership. And Lord, I ask that you continue to give them swift wisdom and guidance and direction. And Lord, we commit ourselves and our community to the progress that you dream for us. And we ask, Lord, that as we continue to grow as a city and as a group of people, that you would be not forgotten, that you'd be in the center of it. And Lord, as we dedicate this meeting to you, may the progress and the tenor of this meeting reflect your spirit. It's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Call the meeting to order. The clerk, please note the presence of a quorum.
Here.
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 Thank you. At this time, I believe the agenda is accurate as presented, and we will continue with that. Our first item of business tonight is the approval of the minutes from the meeting of October 24th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the minutes of October 24th as stated.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Thank you.
I abstain.
One abstain.
Thank you. Note, Ms. Bilgerig,
Abstain.
abstain.
I can't hear. Oh, sorry, Cindy.
At this time, we would welcome any guests that would wish to address the council on items not on the agenda this evening. Do we have any cards?
I'm about to receive one. Mr. McMead.
I'm Mick Mead. I live on Oak Road in Westfield. Councilors? I was going to say mayor, but maybe I will later. I want to congratulate our city on a smooth, peaceful election last week. I also want to congratulate and add to our best small city recognition. How great to be so recognized among 1,268 national cities as number one. WeCan, which Mayor Cook and many of you established, has met almost every month for 8 years. WeCan has served an incredibly fine job of improving some of Westfield's HOA functions. Councilman Tom Smith led us for years, and it grew. Then John Dipple carried it forward. This group of women and men regularly fill the chamber, this chamber. We worked for over a year to revolutionize our trash collection under the tutelage of Jim Ake. This saved thousands of citizens a great deal of money and greatly reduced the number of heavy trucks on our roads. WeCan has tackled other significant issues like sharing HOA governing ideas and speed limits. Now members, under Councilman Ake's magnificent leadership, would like to evolve into a discussion group to consider greater community issues such as disaster preparedness, the size and density and speed of residential development. It's thought that perhaps WeCan's agenda would include an hour of organized, polite discussion among any Westfield, Washington citizens with something to consider. It is not thought that these discussions would preempt the legislative authority of the APC or the council, or for that matter, the mayor. But I strongly believe it would honor, recognize, and enhance our community spirit. I ask that you take this WeCan members' proposal under advisement and consider sanctioning this citizens' initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. Anyone else? Hearing and seeing none, are there any comments from the council? Okay, we will move along. At this time, we will deal with the issue of the claims. Is there a motion on the claims, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. We have no special presentations, so we will move right on to old business. And at this time, we will consider the matter of ordinance 16-26, the Trail PUD, presentation by Kevin Todd. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the council, good evening. For the record, Kevin Todd with the Economic and Community Development Department. This PUD proposal before you would replace the existing Trails PUD ordinance. This ordinance adds acreage to the project. It also establishes uses and architectural and development standards for the commercial area on the north side of the project. This item was introduced at your June 25th council meeting and received a public hearing at the Advisory Plan Commission on August the 15th. After making some revisions, the proposal received a unanimous favorable recommendation with a vote of 5-0 at the Advisory Plan Commission meeting at its October 17th meeting, with 3 conditions attached to that recommendation, which are outlined in your staff report this evening. And I would like to note for you that all 3 conditions were to be met prior to appearing on your council agenda, and all 3 of those have been met before this evening. This item is eligible for adoption consideration this evening. Mr. Birch Dalton is present, the petitioner, and would like to give a brief presentation regarding the changes that have been made to the project during this review process. Following his comments, I'm available for any questions that you may have of staff. Thank you.
You have a pointer tonight? That doesn't work. If we could go. What's that? I don't think it is. Well, let's not worry about it. If we can go to the, I think the 3 concerns in our last
For
meeting.
the record, could you state your name, please?
No, I'm sorry, Birch Dalton with Edge Rock Development. There's 3 things at our last
APC meeting, and then we met with some neighbors and also with a member of the APC to work it out. If we could go to the exhibit showing the Starbucks exhibit. I don't know. The concern is that Starbucks by itself was 2,350 square feet inside the building with about 600 feet outside. And then they had a backloaded drive-through. With the three tenants that we have in hand, Starbucks, Which Wich, and Wings, we came back with this presentation from the front. You'd have the drive-through immediately next to the window, and then a pass-through car lane, and then the next covered area is kind of a eating mall area that could be used by Which Wich and/or Wings. If you go farther down to the east, you'll see an awning over Wings. So what we try to do here was take the requirement of the masonry and add a new touch to it with the wood look to kind of tie in with what the plans are with the apartments. And you can see that on the various elevations that I think we made a very good move in this direction for that. And if you can show, go to the next page. That's kind of the aerial view of what you would see looking at it. And then from all four sides, next page, kind of see looking down from Starbucks that you'd be sitting out on 32 in Oak Ridge looking at it that direction. Next one, please. And then that'd be from the east looking west at Wings. You'll see their outdoor eating area, planter box, and it's basically four-sided architectural because we wanted to accommodate the apartments in the back. So I think we've done what was expected of us there. There's your aerial of the overall site and the movement of the car through the drive-through lane, and basically how we're going to kind of tie the two buildings together to make it look more like one. So basically we'll have about 9,000 square feet under roof. If you can go to the other exhibit for crew car wash. So this is their new prototypical store. It has a lot of the same look of the other ones that are out there. They've changed the color slightly, and then they also have the automated drive-through lane, which if you have a pass. So as you look at it, they have the canopy out over, very similar to the one that was approved down at Greyhound Pass, right there. And so that would be the back view from the apartments looking north. Cruz has been a very good neighbor every place they've been at. They keep their properties very clean. They're outstanding at environment and reclaiming water and reusing it. And obviously they see the excitement of 32 in Westfield, and that's why they want to locate one there. I think the last change is on the apartments. What we were asked to do is to do two things, is to make it look more urban and high dense on this property. One of the commitments that has changed since then is that we're going to have 25%, a minimum 25% being 4 stories. So that would be the tallest apartments in Westfield, which, the Justice Group, has a very long track record in the apartment business building quality properties. And this is a view looking at the new road, if you would, from the north looking south with the new road that we have to put in as part of the project. Also, we committed to all the amenities that was on our list, minus, I think, the electric car. So we've committed to having 7 of the amenities in there. And the pool, the clubhouse. So I think from all the comments we've heard at the APC, we've kind of met or exceeded, 95% of the issues that were brought for us. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. This item is up for adoption this evening, and I'm sure we'll have questions or comments. Is there a motion? And then we'll open it for discussion.
Move to approve ordinance 16-26, the Trail PUD.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council prior to the vote?
There has been a considerable amount of work done on this since it was presented, some of which were covered by Mr. Dalton. Others there were some limits on uses on some of the properties that the commission felt were not appropriate for this area. And we, I think, defaulted to the 32 overlay on the portions to the furthest to the east, rather than fall into at that time, we didn't really have good architecture for the Wings Starbucks area. So there were several other changes made as well. The apartments, some significant changes made there. So, like I say, it's been a lot of work done to get this to this point.
I have some comments. It'll be no surprise to Birch, our petitioner. I have had some issues with this project, and I still do. One of them primarily being the Crew Car Wash. And let me just qualify that with saying I like Crew Car Wash. I think they do a great job. I do not think this is the appropriate location for the Crew Car Wash. And I've tried to reiterate that on many occasions. One of those being this is going to be right down the way from a, $9 million, Melody's here, investment in the Monon Trail. And, having uses that benefit that pedestrian corridor, I think is a great idea. We have areas further out west on 32 that I think are much more appropriate for this car wash. And again, I like Crew Car Wash, nothing against Crew Car Wash. There's a residence right next to this Crew Car Wash. I think it's a real bad land use planning decision to put that next to the residence, so nothing new. Thank you, though.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we do have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Get that recorded, clerk? Thank you. Okay, that is all that we have under old business. We will move to the items under new business, and our first item is ordinance 16-44, Drexler Woods Plan Unit Development, presented by Matt Pleasant. Matt, welcome.
Hey. Good evening, Council. For the record, my name is Matt Pleasant, representing the Westfield Economic and Community Development Department. The item presented is an introduction to a new ordinance proposed as Drexler Woods PUD. Ordinance number 16-44 for reference. The area listed under the proposal is approximately 265 acres, currently zoned agriculture single family, located near the northwest corner of Grant Park. This ordinance is scheduled for a public hearing on December 5th and will return to you in the future for adoption consideration. Jim Schenover of Nelson and Frankenberger is here to present on behalf of the Drexler Woods.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Jim Schenover. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger. With me tonight is Paul Rio, president of Platinum Properties, as well as Tim Walter, Platinum Properties is the petitioner for the matter that is before you. By way of background, Platinum Properties has been one of the most successful developers in Westfield over the last 20 years, with communities such as Countryside, Maple Villas, Maple Knoll, Sonoma, Andover, and Mulberry Farms, to name a few. Platinum has developed approximately 2,500 lots since Paul beginning work in Westfield. And as part of these neighborhoods, Platinum has provided a wide range of home styles, price ranges, as well as land for elementary schools, Westfield Bus Depot, and hundreds of acres of parks, trails, and open spaces. The matter before you is requesting a rezone to a PUD for a mixed-use community that would be known as Drexler Woods. Mr. Pleasant described the overall acreage, 265 acres, and some of that land, some portions of that land are within the Grand Park Master Plan area. Matt, I think, could you go to that master plan exhibit first before we talk about that concept plan? Near the petitioner's presentation, you just want to click on that, and then go to the next exhibit. Keep going. There you go. This first exhibit that we've displayed on the overhead is simply the overall land use plan for the Grand Park area. And I wanted to point out just a few items of note. The overall area is shown outlined in this general area. And you'll see up here in the corner, highlighted in yellow, is the real estate that would consist of Drexler Woods. And there's two portions of our real estate that are within the Grand Park Master Land Plan. The first is down in the south area right here, and that is designated by that master plan as a sports village mixed-use area. And then the portion of real estate just to its north, also in the Grand Park Master Plan map, is designated or recommended for sports residential. If you go to the next exhibit, this next exhibit is simply a blow-up of that particular area, and I just wanted to make a couple comments on that, because this particular land plan and recommendations were things that Paul utilized when planning the vision for this proposed community. And those plans involve meeting, there's been a series of meetings with the planning staff, with the Department of Engineering to try to accommodate some of the recommendations, some of the needs of the Grand Park Master Plan. For example, you'll see in this location, there's a proposed roadway system that would connect roadways such as 193rd Street over to 191st Street, as well as providing connections from Spring Mill Road over to Horton. And then obviously, as you can see in the center of that, is proposed roundabout location. So again, these portions of real estate here and here are part of that Grand Park Master Plan area. If you do go back to the concept plan, and I think that would be the last exhibit with this series of exhibits. This is the concept plan for this particular proposal. This is a rezone request. We're not seeking primary plat or development plan approval at this time, but we are able to provide a concept plan that we anticipate as we go through the Plan Commission process. We'll continue to drill on details, not only of the land plan, but other aspects of the request itself. But I wanted to point out a few items of note. Essentially, again, this is the entirety of the proposed real estate that would be subject to the request and be a mixed-use community. And so when we start down here in the southern portion of the real estate, what we've done is we've taken some of the design elements that were proposed in the Grand Park Master Plan based on conversations with engineering and staff to show and start to design the conceptual site layout of the roadway system that would work on this southern portion of the real estate, as well as incorporating the location of the roundabout. And so the PUD contemplates accommodating the required right-of-way dedications for that particular street system, design of generally the roundabout area, and then contemplated as well is construction of some of those improvements. For this portion of the real estate, what we're doing is we're seeking a rezone classification for that portion of the real estate to a local business zoning classification. So that would be very similar to what is recommended in the Grand Park Master Plan, which is the sports village mixed-use type of area. So that's what we're contemplating and proposing for that area. Just to the north of that area, in this location right here, which we are referring to as Area B. So the first area was Area A, local business. Just to the north of that would be Area B. In that particular area, we'd be proposing to rezone to single-family attached use. And again, that would be, we believe, similar to some of the recommendations in the Grand Park Master Plan that's calling for what they refer to as sports residential. And then finally, the entirety of the remaining real estate over to the western portion of the site would be considered or classified as Area C. And for that particular area, we are seeking rezone approval to an SF4 zoning classification. But the unique aspect of this development, which was not part of the original planning when Paul sat down and began to look at this site, because in fact, when he originally filed the rezone request, it was simply for this portion of the real estate, but he realized there was an opportunity to add to the overall potential development by seeking out the interest of some of the adjacent landowners, and he's entered into purchase agreements regarding that. But as a result of that, he's been able to incorporate this western area of the real estate that would be proposed to be rezoned to SF4, but the request, and we will make sure that we begin to drill down on all the required details as we go through the planning review process, would be that this would be a request for an age-restricted active adult community. And so Paul's belief and working with builders who build this type of product, they see a market need. We don't believe that there currently truly exists an age-restricted active adult community within Westfield. And so that would be part of that particular proposal for that requirement. And Paul feels strongly that a proposal such as this in proximity to Grant Park and all the amenities and benefits it provides, as well as what he would propose. For example, in the concept plan, you can see that there's a high level of detail already provided conceptually about where there would be internal path locations. That's another element that Mr. Rio has been working in conjunction with the planning staff. But we can provide trail connections within our development over to other portions of our development over to Grant Park. But the idea being, again, this age-restricted aspect of this Area C, we think that there would be a void in the market currently and a high market demand, not only for residents and potential buyers within the community of Westfield, but our belief is that it would draw potential buyers from all jurisdictions within Hamilton County and most likely portions of Boone County, Lebanon, Zionsville, and probably northern Marion County. So with that said, that is our overview presentation. A final note that because it would be an age-restricted community and buyers for that particular type of product have certain expectations, there would also be a significant investment made in the amenity center. There'd be an amenity center that would include many different facets, and Mr. Rio sees that that could possibly be in of itself a $2 to $3 million investment just for that amenity center. But with that said, we appreciate your time tonight. We would, I believe our next step would be appearing before the Plan Commission on December 5th so we can begin full review of this. We've received some input to date from planning staff and others, so we can now really start drilling down and adding layers to what we're proposing. But with that said, we appreciate your time tonight, and we'll answer any preliminary questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. As mentioned, this is an introduction.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would move that we table this introduction until the City Council has a chance to meet with the school people and some other people to see how our development should flow a little better. Not necessarily opposed to development, but as I read the plan, comprehensive plan, between this and the Northwest Agricultural section was to be preserved. If this is put in, there'll be one farm between the township line and this project. That being said, the project says that the comprehensive plan says that in between existing commodity operations is what it calls them, I think, there's supposed to be 1 acre, regular houses on 1 acre lots. Plus that there is to be a effort from the City Council and the Plan Commission to fill in vacant areas prior to developing things like this. One problem we have is with the putting in of the utilities. Right now, the people downstream are paying for a lot of this. And there's a consideration underway by the Indiana Regulatory Utility Commission to make developers participate more fully in these things. I think we should wait until that item is resolved, which will be in January. Plus, we've got 9,370 possible units to be, it's already approved to be constructed, and 5,938 multifamily units to be constructed. I think we need to take a breath and just wait just a bit until we start approving and putting in motion these developments that really don't transition between rural community and the urban community. So I would make that as a motion that we table this until we're able to more fully digest. I'm not necessarily against it. I think we need to take a real good look at it. Schools are involved, we're involved. We have to provide police and fire protection for these units. That doesn't come cheaply. That's 2/3 of our general fund budget. So we've got to look at it. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Other discussion from the council members, please? There's a motion on the floor to basically table this. So now is your time, each one, to make comments.
I agree with Joe wholeheartedly. I think we need to take a little breath. We've been hearing an awful lot from our community, and I think we need to kind of get our thoughts wrapped around that before we start moving ahead with these large projects again.
With this being primarily an age-restricted community, 55 and over, it is not going to have any negative effect on the schools. Likely, it would most likely have a very positive effect on the schools. The other, I guess, reason that I would like to consider this is it does accomplish a lot of the goals we had in the comp plan amendment for Grand Park, which aligns some of our roadways up there, which are currently not very efficient. There will be more traffic. This basically will abut, it's my understanding, Chatham Hills as it develops out in the future. So this is not something that's out in the middle of nowhere. So I see a lot of potential advantages to this, and I believe it should go through the process and be heard.
I would agree with Steve's remarks. It gives us the connection that we're looking for up the 193rd to 191st, up through Hortonville, from Spring Mill over, with the development of Chatham Hills. It enhances the safety of the roadways, and it is a senior living community with restrictions, age restricted, and it fits in with the vision we had for the Grand Junction, the Grand Park area, not the Grand Junction. And so I don't see, we'll go through these things through TAC and through the APC process.
How much of this is age restricted?
It would be the entire western portion, the Area C, which is really the primary.
So all of it's age, age restriction?
This Area C is age restricted, and that Area C would encompass approximately 185 acres of the overall 265. This particular area down here that I'm showing on the overhead is the local business area, which is about 32 acres in size. And so the remaining portion, which is not proposed at this time to be age restricted, leaves you with that Area B, which is about 47 acres.
And how many
And what-
units? In Area B, how many units?
Currently, there's no cap on the units in Area B because it's a function of what the SFA zoning would allow based on lot sizes and those other site development standards.
So you would be seeking a straight SFA, nothing changed from an SFA?
We're seeking an SFA, but we anticipate as we go through the process, through the Plan Commission and drill down and obtain input, go before TAC and receive comments from agencies such as the school department, street department, fire department, clearly, Mr. Edwards, all the types of agencies that you would be concerned with and want to get input, we would prefer to start the process so we can get that input and really start drilling down.
Have you spoken with the school departments yet?
We have not spoken with the school department as of yet, but I believe our TAC meeting, is it tomorrow possibly? We start the TAC process tomorrow. And just one comment, while our preference clearly is not to be tabled, we also, in advising our client, understand that we want to be patient as we go through the process. We're not in a hurry, and so we want to get the input so we can really start drilling down, answering questions, and really fine-tune this proposal.
Another comment, I'd like to finish my comments here on Area B.
Thank you. Give him the time, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Area B is, I think you termed it sports housing, so these would be an area where housing could be provided for the athletics that take place, the sports facilities at Grand Park. They could be temporary housing for players during the season. They may be only here seasonally. It could be a spot for empty nesters who want to travel to Florida, so it doesn't mean that it's a little bit different, and I doubt that you'd have full-time residents in that area, so that may influence if you want to comment a little bit more in that Area B and what your vision is for that, I think that would be helpful to understand a little bit. Thank you.
Yes, and if I may, the Area B, again, as I'm showing on the overhead, that area is approximately 47 acres in size, and what we'd be seeking is a single-family attached underlying zoning classification. And so the one thing that's important is it would not permit apartments, so it would not be rental type of situation, be for sale homes. The types of things that we could see in there potentially could be things like potentially quads, which is permitted under the SFA, paired villas, which is something that we're seeing a lot of interest right now in different communities. I believe Paul might be building a similar product here in Westfield. I know Cal Atlantic is building a very interesting paired villa product where it's two homes in one building, but the way it looks from the street, you have one front-facing garage, but then the other garage and the other unit is side-facing. So when you view the home in that scenario, you get more of a sense that it's one larger home. The other thing, similar product is being done by a different builder, Finecraft Homes, which is affiliated with Pyatt Builders, is doing also an exciting paired villa product over the Legacy and Carmel. And so again, going toward details and drilling down, as we've had some communications and meetings with staff and getting input from others, what our hope was and what our intent was as we go through the Plan Commission process is to be able to provide some character imagery of that type of single-family attached type of product so that people can really start to weigh in on it. But going to the heart of your question, yes, the types of housing that you had suggested as possibilities in the Area B is things that we also envision occurring as well.
Do you have control of all the property in this by all the landowners?
Yes.
All of it?
Yes, they're all under contract? Yes.
I would largely third the emotion that based on the age-restricted component of Area C, it is something I don't believe we have represented in the community, at least to a significant degree. Not knowing what the school's report will be, if we proceed forward, I could foresee a potential that maybe Area B, unless it becomes much more defined much more quickly, I could see maybe a request to get a commitment in the phasing that until such time as all of the research is completed and the information digested, that might be something that if it's not age restricted would be held for some future year. Not sure how many out there in the future. I'd also certainly like to see more of the local business because that creatively cuts down almost a fourth of what was kind of on the plan for the commercial growth. But I do see a reason that this could go ahead and proceed with an understanding of all of these various things we've talked about.
Any other comments? We do have a motion on the floor. I will comment. I think that you've obviously heard the concerns. With respect to my thoughts, I probably will yield to our two members that are on the APC. I think we have qualified staff. They've heard. APC, they'll do their due diligence and let the process go on. Obviously, you've heard there are concerns here,
Yes, sir.
and I'll leave it at that. There is a motion on the floor to table this or delay it or whatever. So at this time, I will say all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, the same sign, please.
Aye.
It will move ahead. Please be considerate of what you heard here.
We will, sir. Thank you for your time tonight.
Moving to ordinance 16-45, 181st Street PUD amendment. Kevin Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Again, Kevin Todd, for the record, with the Economic and Community Development Department. This item before you for introduction this evening is an amendment to the 181st Street Plan Unit Development, which was approved in 2014 under Ordinance 14-03. This proposed amendment before you would allow a brewery production facility and tasting room, as well as it would allow mobile food service vendors on parcel A of the existing 181st Street Plan Unit Development. This item is scheduled for a public hearing at the Advisory Plan Commission on November 21st, and will return to you for adoption consideration at a later date. The petitioner, Mr. John Knight, is here this evening and would like to make a brief presentation. And again, following his comments, I'm available for any questions that you may have of staff. Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. As Kevin mentioned, my name is John Knight. I'm the general manager and founder of Grand Junction Brewing Company. And tonight I'm here to begin the process of requesting an amendment to the 181st Street PUD. As Kevin mentioned, we are looking to place a production facility for Grand Junction Brewing Company at this location. In addition, we're looking to provide a tasting room. And part of the requirements that are unique to breweries is that we actually have to have food. We have a burden to provide food to our customers. And there's several different ways that we can meet that burden. And one of the ways that we can meet that burden is through mobile food service vendors. And there has been an ordinance in place now for several years, City of Westfield, that does not allow that. What we are requesting at this point, what we're being asked to do is to amend the PUD as it currently stands. And also we have a change of zoning application as well. By allowing us to utilize mobile food service vendors at this location, we can provide that tasting room component to this production facility. This space occupies about 9,500 square feet. This is the old Holland House Lumber Company building. I think it's a great example of repurposing structures that lie within the City of Westfield. And you can see here on the overview, the area that's right in front of the logo that sits on the front of the building, that area has been earmarked or delineated for mobile food service vendors to be located. They will always remain facing back towards the building. They will not be front facing to 181st Street, with the intent, obviously, that the food service providers that are there are servicing our guests and our guests only. And at this point, I think you guys have been provided most of this through the online agenda. I would love to take any questions that you have at this time. I know this is the first step in a four-step process, and I'm here tonight to try to clarify anything that needs to be clarified, and look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. This is introduction scheduled for a hearing on the 21st. Counselors, do you have any questions or comments?
Your food trucks won't sally forth anywhere else but this?
Mobile food service vendors. Yeah, we will make sure that the mobile food service vendors that actually pull up or that service this facility only. This request is for this location and this location only.
Are there any restrictions on the operating hours for it?
We are, at this point, we're gonna copy the operating hours that we have at the pub. We are not open on Mondays, we're not open on Tuesdays. We will be open on Wednesdays for a short period of time. Our hours at the pub are 4 to 10. Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we open at 11 and close basically at 10 o'clock on all those evenings. Sunday, we actually close at 8. So the intention right now is to mimic or mirror those same hours.
The view that's on the screen where you illustrate where the designated parking for the food trucks exists, in looking at the site plan, there is an identical or at least very similar hashed area further to the south on the other side of the building. Is that also something for that
No,
purpose?
that's actually the entrance to our overhead door. It sits on the side of the building.
Okay, so it's, well, it looks the same graphically on the plan view. It's not meant to be the same.
Yeah, the designer, when he was putting this together, used that same graphic, and he just wanted to show that there would be no parking spaces in that location.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Is there any significance to the covered parking area there? What appears to be a covered parking area?
Yeah, it's currently there on site.
Okay, so you're just utilizing,
Yeah,
putting parking spaces under?
exactly.
Makes it look like a drive-in,
Well, I think
drive-in beer tasting?
yeah.
Any other comments? Any objection before we pass this on? Go forth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, the next item on our agenda will be ordinance 16-46, Chatham Hills Planned Unit Development Amendment. Kevin Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, Kevin Todd, City Economic and Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is an amendment to the Chatham Hills Planned Unit Development District. This proposal incorporates 5 new parcels into District 1 residential district of the PUD. These parcels will also be included in Section 3 of the development. These parcels are currently not annexed into the city of Westfield, but will be before you in December with annexation petitions. This item is an introduction this evening and is scheduled for a public hearing at the Plan Commission's December 5th meeting. Representatives with Hinkie Development are available for any questions that you may have this evening, and I don't believe they're going to make a presentation. Is that right? Right. So they're here to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. As Kevin explained, this is an introduction. It would typically move on. Are there any comments or questions from the council?
I'm a little clueless here. How many acres is this? It's hard to discern from the materials.
I'm Steve Hinkie with Hinkie Development, developers of Chatham Hills. The acreage we're adding is only about 25 acres. If you're looking up here, you're seeing there's 130 acres altogether, but most of this is golf course all through here. What's being added is about a 3-acre parcel here and about 25 acres here. The lots and everything interesting, this would be 206th Street, which would be just the north side of the development. And we're putting an entry in down to this area here. The 11th golf hole is here, 12 is here, 13 goes up through here. So all these lots on this side are all on the golf course, this side on Ravines. Most of these lots also are much larger than all the rest of the lots we've already done in Chatham. There's 2 segments to this. This area in here is all estate lots, 110 to 120 feet wide, 150 to 240 feet deep. This area in here is an empty nester type area that'll be 65-foot and 70-foot lots. Homes in here will be in that $550,000 to $750,000 range. Homes in here will be in that probably 900 to 2 million plus through here. But we're only amending the PUD to add these additional parcels right here that you see in color.
But is that a corresponding increase in the number of units allowed total?
We are not increasing the number of units. We're not requesting an amendment to anything in the PUD other than adding this.
Okay, thank
And
you.
the same thing in the last time we added 2, we added more acreage, but we did not increase the units.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments from the council?
Thank you.
Unless there's an objection, this will move forward as planned. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Moving along, we have Resolution 16-124, Hart Commercial Park. Matt?
Good evening, council. For the record, again, my name is Matt Pleasant with the Westfield Economic and Community Development Department. The resolution before you would affect the property located at 820 East Main Street. The resolution is to determine that the 32 overlay access control requirement, much like the Tournament Trail just west of 31, would be unnecessary for this property. The UDO requires council to decide relief from this requirement, and the resolution is eligible for an approval this evening. The petitioner is present and does not plan to make a presentation, but is available for any questions. If you have any department questions, both Kevin and I are here to answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you. As mentioned, this is up for adoption consideration. Is there a motion either for or against, and we'll open it for discussion?
Motion to approve Resolution 16-124.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Item is open for discussion.
Please explain what we're doing here one more time.
If you'll recall, when we developed the US 31 or 32 overlay zone standards, there was a requirement in there that essentially an access road running parallel to 32 be required during there's certain triggering mechanisms, and these folks are getting ready to plat their property to divide it up and sell parts of it off. And that's one of the triggering mechanisms. And so what in the standards, it requires that if the city is to forego that frontage or that access road requirement, the council has the ability, and actually it's the council that is required to bless that concept when a request like that would come through. So that's what this is. That's why it's a resolution. It's not an ordinance amendment. They're just platting, but this is a discretionary act as set forth in the 32 overlay zone. I don't think we have a position.
Not to add complexity here, but, and I realize that it doesn't look handy to add that frontage road right now. However, in reducing the number of curb cuts on State Road 32, it would seem like access either from, at a later date, obviously, down the road, Hillcrest or Willow Creek Way, to access those properties and get those curb cuts off at 32 would be advantageous.
Yeah, we've talked about this at length. We've met with the city engineer, and it's certainly possible to construct a frontage road or a access road connecting those roads over to Willow Creek Way and even points beyond. It's just logistically difficult. So that, I mean, that's why it's before you. I mean, I don't think we have a solid position on this. It's kind of one of those on, if that is appropriate, maybe maybe it's not now. I don't know. I mean, that's why you guys have these elected positions. But I guess the point that the city engineer made is that if that were to become a priority, I mean, it's going to require the commitment of a lot of resources and some energy to make that happen at some point.
But we're basically, by approving it, foregoing the future option of doing so.
Not necessarily.
Well, unless we're going to do a takings on it or something similar, right?
I mean, that would be true all up and down the way.
Any other comments?
I mean, could we, I have some concerns with this as well for the future, but I don't know it wouldn't make any sense on that particular parcel right now to put any kind of an access road in because it doesn't go anyplace. Is there some way to do something, I mean, to require something in the future, at least, I mean, to require when this happens that some 100-foot, 80-foot right-of-way, whatever we would need for an access road, be somehow east to west maintained as this develops, and I'm just looking for some way that, I mean, this may never happen, but it could happen in 5 years, that something else happens out here.
You were suggesting not requiring them to build the road, but merely to set aside the possibility if it's needed in the future, kind of like a sidewalk we run into on subdivisions on the outskirts of town.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was my thoughts, is that we at least have some foreseeable, some way to get through there.
And the problem is, I mean, we're already seeing the heavy traffic issues there now, and you're talking about potential, further redevelopment then of the area, more traffic. And I know just from next door and other posts, there's been quite a bit of trouble of people getting in and out of Willow Creek Way and also Hillcrest. So again, I'm concerned that we're going to miss an opportunity here for the future to help this.
I hear you. We talked about this at length, and I don't have a great answer for you. I mean, there's benefits and there's pros and cons, and I really don't know how to advise you.
Is this critical to decide this tonight, or because it's just being introduced to us tonight too, so.
I know that they're in the middle of a platting process, and they've experienced a lot more complexity than they ever would have imagined. And they've been pretty patient to work with us, but, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's probably more important that a smart decision be made than a quick one.
What we're discussing right now is not all that unlike what we did over at West Oak by the Autism Center and building I can't think of the name of now, to the east of it, where we had the discussion about put in a road, don't put in a road, to the 40 acres to the north where nothing is destined to happen for some period of time, and the right-of-way was just left but did not require to be paved. So we're kind of talking the same thing here, that maybe we ought to identify
This is
where.
a lot more complicated, and I'll, at the risk of going completely down deep into the weeds here, just stop me when you're done hearing me talk. But there are like two different owners that are cooperating in this. I mean, there were some subdivision that happened here that shouldn't have happened without going through the process. And all these folks are playing nice and trying to solve the platting problem that they're dealing with right now, which will ultimately be before the Plan Commission. But I think this threshold issue is one that if there isn't an answer, they don't know what standards they're complying with for the plat, for the preparation of the plat. That's why it's here first. And
Is
so,
it such that if we had a spot that we needed to be in an easement for potential future, that it would restrict the use of that property?
that's a Brian, maybe it's me, I don't know. I don't have a great answer on the fly.
If I understand what your statement is, are you saying have,
Well, 'cause
just
I don't know
relieve
the
them of the
project.
requirement to build it, but leave the right-of-way there should it be necessary in the future? That's what I suggested. I thought that's what Steve was going for, and I think that's what you stated as well. What Matt's saying is if you do that, they're in the same pickle.
Well, I mean, but we don't even know where to put it. I mean, it's not designed. I mean, it's not like a green field. I mean, if you're gonna, so are we gonna run it through a building? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's topographical issues there. I mean, this is a deeper question. If we're gonna go down that road, no pun intended, this will require a little bit of like, not engineering to the nth, but some preliminary engineering to know even where to put it. If we were going to do that, so we don't end up with something that doesn't even work.
I mean, I guess if we had their site plans that they were working from on what they wanted to construct, we might be able to better ascertain if it was
And
possible.
they're not planning to construct anything.
Oh.
It is merely dividing up what's already there.
Oh, I thought there was a project, okay.
No, and much of the southern half of this is all in the floodplain and unbuildable anyway today.
Does this impact the state in any way? Since it's along State Route 32?
I don't think they're planning to do anything new immediately. And now the other side of the coin here, if this ever became a higher city priority, I mean, there's always ways to, extend roads. And we do it all the time. And there are more steps associated with it. I mean, you're negotiating to acquire real estate. So I don't know what makes the most sense, whether you try to obtain rights that you might one day use but may never use, or do you wait and acquire it when you know you're going to need it? And that's really a policy decision, I think.
Are there any other comments from council?
With the current layout of this area, and I mean, it's sort of surrounded by communities, residential communities, east and west, with the exception, I mean, there's the two parcels immediately east and west, but there's really, I mean, probably the risk here is low because there's no place to, if this were all vacant land out there, I think we're talking a totally different situation, but I'm not sure where this access road, I mean, it would serve limited use unless everything changes out there, and it may some point in the future, but I don't see that in the next 5 to 10 years, certainly. So I don't know.
Just a point of clarity, there is a motion. If the motioner would like to amend the motion or retract it, you're certainly welcome to do that.
No, leave the motion.
Are there any other comments from council? We do have a motion to approve this at this time.
Basically, it's a awkward situation that I don't think we have enough information to make may be the best decision, but the risk is probably very limited for the foreseeable future. And I don't think there's any other remedy other than just do nothing, which means that that causes some significant problems for property owners. That I'm not sure that's the right thing to do either, so I guess I'm leaning toward supporting this and hoping for the best in the future, that it doesn't cause any major issues.
I would make one other comment. It appears that we have business to conduct on the 28th of this month, just 2 weeks from this evening. So if there is a desire to put more into it, you can consider that as well.
Mr. Chairman, would we get more out in 2 weeks' time than we would, or would we be back in the same situation?
I direct that question to Matt, maybe staff.
Thanks for letting us caucus.
Our pleasure.
So I don't think it would slow, they're not going to be on the 21st at the Plan Commission, so that wouldn't slow them down. I guess if we're gonna do that, though, it would be nice to get some direction from you folks about what additional info you'd like from us, so we can be working on that in the meantime.
If there's no compelling reason to do it urgently, I would certainly like for the bright minds that solve these kinds of problems, if there is a solution, to work just a little bit longer at it to see if there is a suggestion on how we can preserve our opportunity for the future.
Can I add just a couple words?
You may not, just one moment.
Okay.
Yes, sir. What?
I've
heard, I'm having 3 conversations, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to just
Got it.
remain in order, that's all. I mean, this is not a public hearing. We're here to make a decision. There's a motion on the floor. So I would prefer to execute on that motion. We're still discussing that.
I mean, is this person who would like to speak the petitioner?
It's the surveyor.
I mean, is it legitimate to hear from the petitioner, since we do have questions?
It is at the will of the council. If that is desired, I
would be fine with
I would
that.
yield the floor to let him introduce himself and make a short statement.
Thank you. I'm Nathan Althouse with Miller Surveying. We are proposing no new infrastructure buildings. All we're doing is the L-shaped piece, which is owned by Mr. Hart. We're basically wanting to divide off into 2 pieces, and we have a potential buyer. We have a buyer to buy the building that's in the northwest corner. So I know we got a problem, with the frontage road, and that's why we're here. So there's 2 buildings on the L-shaped piece, and the east one is south, and then we have the Crumbs property, which is where the big office is an existing building that's owned by, Mr. Crum. So to get the frontage road in there, you can't really fit a road through the buildings. So if this would ever come in through like a redevelopment where you just wipe the whole place clean and then do a real development, then we'd have to come back and go through a platting process, and that's when we can get our road. But right now, we're not proposing any new infrastructure or buildings or use, the same use.
So basically, there are 2 buildings on that existing L-shaped property, and you want to sell, somebody wants to sell one of them
Right.
to an interested buyer, and you can't sell one building because they're all part of the same property, so you
Right,
need to
so
subdivide that. So,
So we've started an easy process that's turned
I mean, I would say with that additional clarity that with no new buildings being added, no site work being, I mean, this is just a formality really to allow them to sell a building on a property. So I guess I'm less concerned about it than I was, but.
And in the event that there is to be a road, certainly on that L-shaped property is so far north That's not an optimum place to have it anyway. It's going to involve parcels further south to actually make it practical, because we're probably not going to do anything with Shadow Lakes.
And that east parcel is a residence, that is a house, which would be right in the middle of where a road would be.
And can I make a comment, please?
You may.
And Mr. Zager, feel free to rein me in here, but I think one of the comments that we would have is that to the extent that relief from that requirement is granted, it would be nice for it to be clear that it's limited to the purpose of the plat that is going to be pending here most immediately. So if there are other like he says, triggering mechanisms in the future, that it's not.
We get another look at it.
Yeah.
Do I need to amend my motion then to include that provision?
What-
Yes?
Tell us the language that's in this. Let me go back and look real quickly.
It seems so easy. It's not easy.
Trying to find you a plat petition number. We can supplement it to your record if you like, but I'd suggest that it be limited to applying to the plat petition number that is, this petition only. The petition that will be before the Plan Commission, we can give Cindy the petition number.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have that number, so I can't include it in a motion.
Well, we can add it if it's your intent that that number appear in your motion. We can supplement.
So you would simply make an amendment to your motion?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend my motion.
No, it's not a motion to amend. You just want to amend the motion.
Okay, I'll amend. I'm going to move to approve Resolution 16124 with the condition, correct, that it applies only to the petition currently in front of the Planning Commission.
Yes. It's a pending petition. They're trying to find the number.
Does the seconder agree?
Then I would, yes, I agree to second
Thank you.
resolution.
Motion has been amended. Is there any other discussion? Council, are you comfortable?
Yes.
Hearing no objection. Are we up here, are we comfortable to call for the question?
Yep.
And thank you for your clarification. Okay, we have a motion that was amended. It's as clear as it's ever going to be. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Unanimous.
Sorry and thank you. Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Thank you. Now, it was very worthwhile. Got to work through those things, just the way it is. Moving on to Resolution 16-125. This is a resolution for the City of Westfield creating an additional fund. Brian Zager will explain that to us.
This one's going to be a lot easier. City wants to open a bank account. That's pretty much it. The First Merchants Bank, we currently don't have a savings account there, but we do have funds that we wish to reside there. There are some incredible benefits that were uncovered and negotiated by John Rogers. But to be able to save money in First Merchants, the clerk asked that First Merchant Saving Fund number 435458 be created. And that's this request. If you'd like to know the reasons for that savings account, Mr. Rogers can explain that to you much better than I can. As far as the mechanics of this particular fund being created with the clerk, she can express her reasons for that, but it's pretty common that we create funds to service certain accounts. This is just another one of them.
Thank you. This is an introduction. It's also up for adoption consideration. Is there a motion on this item?
Move to approve Resolution 16-125.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I wanted to hear a little bit more from John or Cindy, just about what monies are going in there and what kind of benefits.
Hi, John Rogers, Director of Enterprise Development. We have funds in a couple of accounts that are specifically set aside for what we call investment accounts, are in our Huntington account right now. What we're proposing to do is to move those funds to this First Merchants account. First Merchants was the senior bank behind the $32 million bond that we just approved. As part of this, as part of negotiating the bond, they agreed to, if we would move $8 million to that account, which we have already, to their bank, they would, in addition to their already low price, their already low discounting that they gave us on the bond, they discounted it additionally. In addition to that, they are giving us the highest rate we can get on that account, and it's completely liquid. So we can use those monies at any time, but it is Cindy's goal and my goal to use that account as a savings account, so it's set aside.
If we fall below the 8 million, do we
No,
forego our discount?
we do not.
Okay.
Any other comments? Just a point of clarification, this really has no impact on revenues, expenses. It's simply an issue of where we store our funds.
Correct. That is correct.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Resolution 16-129.
This one's not quite so easy. Due to some bookkeeping errors by the previous director out at Grand Park, certain remedial measures were necessarily undertaken by the clerk's office for the fiscal integrity of the city. She transferred $150,000 on June 30th, 2015, and $136,972 on January 1st, 2016, from the general fund to the Grand Park Fund to correct those bookkeeping mistakes. Those funds have since been replenished in Grand Park and refunded to the general fund already. This resolution is being requested to be adopted to ratify those moves by the clerk treasurer. Keep our books in good order.
So this would just say that we as a council approved what was already done and we're.
Yes. Yes. It was, both these events faced the clerk treasurer's office with measuring authority over fiscal integrity. She chose fiscal integrity and now requesting the authority. Fair enough?
Sir, this is up for adoption consideration this evening. Is there a motion?
Move to approve Resolution 16-129.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Just a note that this doesn't, it really doesn't impact revenues, expenses. It's past, and those were actually, I believe, invoices and bills paid. They just were paid a little prematurely out of a wrong account, is that correct?
Absolutely. It was merely a balancing of funds.
Yeah. So basically, we maintained our integrity, and
We didn't bounce a check.
pretty simple, basically. Thought you said it was really hard. Okay, good. Any other questions or comments from council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Thank you. According to my agenda, we're nearing completion. Resolution 16-130. Common Council of Westfield approves the issuance of Westfield Redevelopment District Tax Increment Revenue Bonds by the Westfield Redevelopment Commission. Brian?
Yes. Redevelopment Commission, in which they adopted a resolution to fund, again, John, I'm sorry, 4.6? 4.6 million. I remembered. $4.6 million in TIF revenues toward a bond out in the Eagletown allocation area. This was platted out and anticipated back in 2008. We had the downturn, and now it's time to do the road constructions out there. The $4.6 million will be paid through TIF funds by the Redevelopment Commission. However, before the Redevelopment Commission can enter into an arrangement like that, City Council must adopt a resolution such as the one in front of you to grant the permission to do so. The whip hand I was told about.
They came to the end of their chain.
What was that, Joe?
Nothing.
So the TIF money was generated from the Eagletown TIF, is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's generating sufficient income to maintain the debt service on this amount.
Is there a motion?
Now, I want to be sure, they haven't already done this, have they? They've made a resolution that we authorize them to do that. Is that correct?
They authorized it, however, they can't do it without a resolution adopted by the council.
Okay, that's what I'm.
Yeah.
I move to approve Resolution 16-130.
Second.
Any discussion? While it may, there's a lot of detail that was obviously provided to us, but this does go back a number of years, and we're really kind of following through, giving them permission to do what they needed to do. Any other comments?
It took a while to build up that fund.
It did. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. That completes all the items on our agenda. I would open it to council comments and defer to Mr. Hoover maybe to give us a quick report.
Update on Advisory Plan Commission, which was actually held last Wednesday, kind of a odd time, but we had a relatively short meeting. Woodwind Planned Unit Development we were given an update by the petitioner. There will be a public hearing on November 21st, and that public hearing will be held at the Westfield Intermediate Schools because of the expected crowd, the multipurpose room there, door number 2. Same time, Monday night, but a different location. We also approved a detailed development plan amending the landscaping on the Westfield Business Center on Oak Ridge Road. We sent a positive recommendation to this council on the Jonathan Bird's Fieldhouse additional signage amendment to that PUD. And we had public hearing on Schofield Farms Plan Unit Development, both the PUD and the development plan and site plan. That was it.
Any other comments from the council?
Just like to say the Big Ten championships out at Grand Park. I was out there Friday and watched IU. Unfortunately, they came out on the short end of the stick, but just barely. But I want to thank the team out there at Grand Park for organizing and putting on a great event. Don Ross's here. Thank you for doing that. It was great to see all the players participate in that.
Any other comments? This time I'll turn it over to the mayor. They'll be real brief.
I am in the stead of the mayor.
State your name for the record, please.
Chuck Lehman. That's not true. For the record, Todd Bertrand, Chief of Staff. On behalf of the mayor, as Councilor Ake had already mentioned, the Big Ten's Men's Soccer Championship Final Four was hosted at Grand Park, televised across the Big Ten Network, and it will be coming back next year, will it not? And before I proceed any further, I would like to introduce the newest member of our senior management team, Mr. William Knox. If he would please rise, Mr. Knox. Welcome him to our team. I have essentially loaded him up in the city vehicle and kicked him out at the curb, and I sped away at Grand Park. That's how I've characterized it. He's been a great add to the team, and as you get to know him, I know you will agree with us as well. State of the City is coming up this Thursday. It's sold out, so if you don't have your ticket, you'll be on the outside looking in. I know that the mayor has some exciting announcements about our economic development that have just come about in the last few weeks that you'll be wanting to make yourself aware of if you don't know already. We were recognized by a group called Wallet Hub as the best small town in America of our size. What was the range? She doesn't know. Under 50,000. So we were there, we were noted on that. Midland Trail Extension, many of you, or some of you were there for that ribbon cutting. Congratulations not only to our public works staff and our legal team for land acquisition activities, and certainly Melody, our Parks Director, for being a part of that in its earliest of phases. You already know, perhaps by now, worth noting again for the record, Cambria Suites have finally broken ground and mobilized, as you well know. That is a great value add, and it's about a $20 million investment by the private sector because of Grand Park. Westfield and Lights, Melody, December 3rd, is that correct? Correct. Very good. This is the 7th year of a highly anticipated event, and Melody and her staff are looking forward to it, and it's become quite a mainstay for our community. And one day, we will have it in the Grand Junction Plaza. I'm confident you will agree. The popular carriage ride is back, and then I believe that is it, other than noting that our police chief is adorning a beard. Because several officers are growing out their beards to raise money for Relay for Life. And they will be doing this all month long, including Chief Rush. So if you want to see a nice, attractive beard, take a gander at Chief Rush. So with that, I will yield the rest of the time.
Thank you. This concludes all of our business for this evening. Unless there is a major objection, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming.